here for our professional development session in October. And this one will be focused specifically on bridging the classroom and community, thinking about community partnerships. And I'll let our speaker talk a little bit more about that and introduce us. So we are very excited on behalf of the Global Schools program to introduce our speaker to all of you. You'll see we have Ilan Inverga here with us today, who is a young K-12 educator who's also, his school is part of the Global Schools community of practice and network, which we're very excited to have them involved. He's also an SDG advocate from the Philippines and works professionally as a teacher and teacher trainer at the International School for Better Beginnings in Lucena City. He also pioneered a youth-led education innovation that champions education for sustainable development, global citizenship, and social emotional learning. He has presented his program to education ministries regionally and internationally, and was also awarded the National Sustainability Leadership Award in Education. He's also a member of the UNESCO SDG4 Youth Network and was able to be involved in many of the initiatives for the UN Transforming Education Summit, including the Youth Declaration, which is very exciting. So before I turn it over to him, please feel free to write in the chat and introduce yourselves and say where you are coming from so he gets an idea. I see people have already started to do that, so that is great. And I will turn it over to him to lead us through this session. Oh, you're on mute. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's so nice to see you. And thank you for those who have their videos on. It's really nice to see you. And those who don't, it's perfectly fine. You're welcome to engage with us using the Zoom chat as well. Or feel free to use the reaction buttons on the Zoom. And I just wanted to double check if I am currently sharing my screen and everyone can see it all right. Perfect. Thank you for the nods of heads and thumbs ups and the chat. Thank you as well. So my name is Ilan, as Amanda just mentioned. It's such a privilege to be here talking to all of you. I'm a big fan of the Global Schools program. Amanda knows this. I'm a big fan of the network and the schools that are part of this Global Schools network. I love that we all are passionate about the SDGs and making sure those are incorporated into our school systems. And we hope that what we present to you today is going to give you a little extra nuance and maybe some new strategies that you can use in your own schools. But first things first, I know this is the last webinar for Global Schools for the month of October, especially as we celebrate, Teachers Month and Teachers Day. So belated Happy Teachers Day, everyone. I just wanted to extend that, that greeting, because I know as teachers, you all work so hard, and go ahead and pat yourselves on the back and give yourself all the love, especially this coming weekend, because I know you deserve it. And I know you've done some amazing things this week. So thank you as a fellow teacher to you. Thank you for all the work that you've done as a teacher. So keep going, guys. And last but not least, I know this week was also a special week because we just had World United Nations Day just recently on October 24. So belated Happy United Nations Day as well. Very much in line to what we like to work on when it comes to global schools, especially since as a school for us, we've sort of been inspired a lot, not just for what the United Nations is, but especially the global goals and the SDGs and what those lend to our future, the future of people and planet. I'd like to also greet everyone here, whether you're a formal educator or not, whether you also work in the informal education sector. I just wanted to say hello and just mention that every kind of educator is valid and you're absolutely welcome to be in this space. So thank you for joining us. And I know I will say this later at the end of my presentation, but please, I will already be clear and state it right now that you're welcome to contact me even after this presentation is over. I'm so happy to help more educators and help other schools. And if there's anything I'm not able to address or answer in this presentation, please feel free feel free to contact me later on. But I can see a few of you have started answering the question that we've posted on the screen share on the slide right now. And I wanted to give a few minutes to introduce myself just to give you a bit more time to answer this question. So if you haven't yet, please feel free to type it in the chat box. But along with saying, your name and where you're from, we would love to know what your answer would be to this question, because it's going to be important for us to contextualize this discussion for today. So the question is, what is the purpose of education? Because it's a question we should be asking more, right? I think we should be asking this question a lot more. If we look at certain things in education systems, and if we look at certain strategies that we use in the classroom, sometimes those things don't align with your answer to this question. So we first want to make sure you know your answer to this question. So what is the purpose of education? And I wanted to read out a few of your answers in the chat. So again, thank you. If you haven't yet, please feel free to go ahead and send it in the chat box. So Eliana says the purpose of education is to equip students with knowledge and skills to create their own future and reform the present world they live in. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful answer. I also see there's an answer here from Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. So Kevin from Somalia says the role of education is to change our mindsets. Ooh, I love that. To change our mindsets from fixed to open-minded. Margarita talks about better ethic and talented people. Sarita mentions that education is a journey of self-discovery and contributing and engaging in the welfare of humanity and planet. Nicolina to help develop active, aware, and professional citizens. And I see many, many more coming in the chat box. So thank you so much. And for those who are able to multitask, you're welcome to read along in the chat box as we go through this presentation. But as we go into the topic of bridging the classroom and community, essentially we're talking about how teachers can build more partnerships and stronger partnerships with entities outside of the school. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. But as I said, we first want to contextualize our discussion. And I'm sure we can all be in agreement with this. We're very happy that we're coming out of the pandemic and, life is, better. I hope so. I hope it's better for everyone. But during the pandemic, I believe something we can all agree on is all of the problems in our world that we had noticed prior to the pandemic, we really saw them clear as day during the pandemic. Things like hunger, things like poverty, things like environmental issues, things like food distribution issues, and many more, right? So all of these problems in our world became so apparent. And another thing also became apparent because of the pandemic, and that was change is possible. We saw all of us change our behavioral patterns and the way we lived our lives. We found a way to adjust. So what we also learned from the pandemic, along with that there are these global crises that we need to address, we also learned that humanity is capable of changing its behavior. So those are two important things to contextualize this discussion. If we think about kids and the students and the future and the planet that they're going to inherit when they grow up, we know that the problems of today are on the path of worsening, right? So everything from climate change to conflict, these things are they're not getting much better. Unfortunately, they're on track to sort of get worse and worse. And again, I will echo again the question of what is the purpose of education? The United Nations, as we all know, has provided this amazing blueprint, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And this year's theme of Unite to Act is a very powerful one. But I did want to reference two documents before we proceed. And the first one is a report called What Young People Want. So I'm wondering, for the teachers here, I know we're all teachers here, but do you believe students and young people should have a voice in the education that they receive? Should students be able to tell, people who control education, should young people be able to, say, maybe we learn in a different way. Can we please change the way that we are being taught? So do you believe as teachers that the voices and opinions of young people are valid when it comes to the education they receive? I'm sure the common answer here is yes, and thank you. Thank you for those responding in the chat box. Yes, absolutely. So there was this amazing report called "What Young People Want," and it was huge, right? So it collected responses from 1.8 billion young people aged 10 years old to 24 years old, and this was just this year. And a key priority that young people pointed out, one thing that was really clearly wrong, that the United Nations itself has voiced itself on this, is the relevance of education. So when we answer the question of what's the purpose of education, there is an issue when it comes to the relevance. The topics and the way things are being taught are not relevant to the future that these students will inherit. So there is this problem of relevance, and what young people want, as the report is entitled, they are looking for education and skills that will help them prepare for a better future. The last document that I'd like to reference, as Amanda also referenced earlier, was the Youth Declaration on Transforming Education, which was launched last year, which I had the wonderful honor to present to the UN Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez last September. And it was during the Transforming Education Summit, which I hope everyone has heard about, because it was such a powerful event that really brought education to the forefront of policies. And it really put it as a high priority in many governments since last year. So we're very happy that this event happened. And we're very happy that the document that came out of this event, the Youth Declaration, was launched. And it has really showed us that there are so many young people around the world in all countries who are looking for better education, who are demanding that what they are being taught is preparing them for the future that they will inherit. And a lot of this has to do with future-proof skills, and a lot of this has to do with education for sustainable development. So I commend all of you for being part of the Global Schools program, because I know that's an advocacy that we all share, and that is that we are incorporating sustainable development into our classes. So thank you all for supporting what youth are asking for. All right. So today I'm going to be sharing the example of what we're doing in our school here in the Philippines. So our school is called ISBB, and it stands for International School for Better Beginnings. And we have something, I really believe we have something special that we have here in our school. And I truly believe that it's something that you can all replicate wherever you are. So I really hope you can find something to take away from today's presentation. But our school is called ISBB. The program we introduced a few years ago that brought in the SDGs into curriculum and pedagogy, we called it Youth for Better. So that's the name of the program. And the vision of our program is that young people, no matter how young, so we're a K-12 school, so we have preschool, pre-primary, we have primary, and we have secondary, or elementary and high school. So we have K-12 levels in our school, and even as young as preschool, even as young as primary school, we believe that these are the most formative years and should not be wasted, should be maximized in showing them how to live in, how to lead positive change, how to prepare for the jobs that will help people on the planet. So we essentially envision a world where all young people will graduate from school and they will know exactly to look for a job and to live a life that makes people and planet better, right? And the way to do that is to not just say it in an abstract way, because many people know the saying, be the change that you want to see in the world. So many people know the saying, but just saying it is not enough, right? So what makes our program so special is because we have made change making, or being this change maker, we've made it into an experiential academic experience, right? So what happens is through the academic subjects, and we're not saying one academic subject, we're saying all academic subjects, through all their academic subjects from preschool all the way up to high school, on a regular basis, as in a weekly basis, the SDGs are being discussed, social problems are being discussed, and solutions to address those social issues are the assignments or the homework or the projects of the students. So the act of helping the community is now their homework, is now their project. And because we've made that a tangible experience, it's not just words on the wall that you would see in a classroom. We've now sort of unlocked a way that will guarantee that these kids will graduate and have this really concrete sense of community, and sense of what is their role as a global citizen. And we've done this a few years, and I think it's safe to say we've really demonstrated proof of concept, and we've really demonstrated that it works. So we're very happy to share this with all of you. Just to give you an overview, if you take a look at the slide, from preschool all the way to grade 12, in each grade level, they have what they call a campaign. Another word for this would be an advocacy. And what teachers do is in each grade level, they would connect, or yeah, we'll use the word connect. Teachers would connect their lessons to the same sort of social problem. And you'll see, for example, in grade 1, they talk a lot about marine life. In grade 4, they talk a lot about other cultures, racial discrimination. In grade 7, they talk about indigenous people in the Philippines. And in grade 11, they talk about renewable sources of energy. So whether you're a math teacher, English teacher, science teacher, or any subject, all of our teachers have found a way to connect their lessons to a social problem. And they contextualize it in these local issues, in these local community issues, because it is doable, it is possible. And the way we've done this is we took the time and the effort to really equip our teachers to empower their students through academic lessons. And as a result, because they are being assessed with assignments, homework, and projects that are literally in the community, the impact is not just students are learning the competencies or the learning outcomes that are prescribed by the curriculum, they are also helping the community, right? So there's this community engagement that is the added impact. And again, what makes this extra special for us is because this does not just happen with one teacher in the school. It happens with every teacher in our school across all grade levels from K to 12. So again, you can kind of imagine the products, like the students that walk out of our school. So we are really, really inspired every day by the work that we do because of the students. And we have examples to show you. So we hope you see how. But just to give you some more tangible, concrete numbers of the impact of our program here. On average, this is just on average per year, per academic year, our students have led over 100 initiatives for the community. They've impacted over 7,000 people. Again, this is just average per year. As a school, as one institution, if we combine all the grade levels, they all address all 17 SDGs, which means as you level up to the next grade level, you tackle and focus more in depth a certain sustainable development goal or global goal. And we've also seen a boost in student engagement, academic performance, and self-esteem among our students. Why? Because students have now found if they're working in the community, if they're building relationships and partnerships with people outside of the school, and this is part of their homework, they see the impact of what they're doing. So their efforts in their studies now equate to an impact, real, tangible, real life people impact. So that's really special for us. The pictures you see on the slide were literally taken this week or today. So this week we had our United Nations week celebration, and it's really a celebration of the student-led effort to take action for the SDGs. And as I look at these pictures, I feel very proud of our students. And again, we want to show you these pictures because they demonstrate sort of the passion behind the students and what is coming out, like how we're sort of trying to realize the vision that we stated earlier. Additionally, through this program, it was selected to be presented at the Transforming Education Summit last year in Paris. It was also selected for a regional event here in Southeast Asia. And just last month, if I'm not mistaken, just last month, our program also received an award in New York for the AFS Youth Assembly event. So we've gotten a lot of sort of global recognition and regional recognition for our program, and we've sort of felt that it was time to share this with the world, and that's what we're doing right now with all of you. So again, we're so happy to share more, and if we don't have enough time in this presentation, please feel free to reach out. So along with being proud of my students, I'm also very proud of the people who spearheaded this program, and that's none other than teachers, right? So the specific skill that we are talking about in today's webinar is just one of many, but these teachers had to be trained in a multitude of new skills that teachers don't often or traditionally get trained to do. And I made sure to add the picture of my fellow faculty because I'm just very proud of the hard work that they put in. And as a teacher, I think we can all agree we don't actually learn how to form partnerships with people outside or people out in the community. So I really hope that what we share today is new and helpful. But when I was given this opportunity to speak to you, I also thought that as much as you all maybe love hearing my voice, I also wanted to, take the opportunity to give examples of the types of partnerships that we formed between, what teachers teach inside the classroom and people, organizations, companies, businesses, government agencies outside of the school. We wanted to give you examples, and I thought the best people to give those examples are the teachers themselves. So I came a little bit prepared today because I brought a few of my fellow faculty members on the Zoom, and I'm going to give them each a quick moment to share some of the examples that I hope you can take inspiration from, because it is possible for teachers to sort of enhance and enrich their teaching and enrich the learning of students through these partnerships with external entities and organizations and people. So without further ado, before we talk about sort of the nitty-gritty and like how can we actually do this on your end, we wanted to give you some of the examples that we have sort of generally discussed so far. So without further ado, I'd like to call our first teacher. And again, all the way from the Philippines, we are happy to introduce teacher Abby. And I'm just checking, teacher Abby, if you need help unmuting.
Hello,
There.
Sir Ilan. Can you hear me po?
Yes, go ahead, teacher Abby.
Thank you, Sir Ilan. Good evening, everyone. My name is Teacher Abby. I'm one of the grade 1 teachers of International School for Better Beginnings. Our campaign is named Safe Soap, and it is a campaign promoting eco-friendly soaps that are less harmful to marine life, targeting the UNSDG number 14, Life Below Water. We seek to address the social problem of the harmful effects of commercially accessible soaps on various bodies of water, using the call to action to encourage and promote using environmentally friendly soaps among members of our local communities. In order to help the marine life and sea animals, our campaign teaches children the importance of organic soap and how to even produce eco-friendly soap. By forming a partnership with a small local business called the Soap Farm PH, a company that produces organic soap here in our community. We began to teach students how to create and use their own handmade safe soap. To inform other Filipino people that is good idea to have our own soaps, which they then also sell their own as part of our academic subjects. And the funds earned also from the sale of the soaps are used to donated hygiene materials for to the public schools or underprivileged school named the Moit Elementary School that we have chosen here in Lucena City. The funds will be used to purchase hand washing stations, hygiene kits, and school materials for the children. We are very proud of our pupils because even at a very young age, they already know how to protect the environment by taking simple actions like choosing safe soap and preserving underwater life. Thank you.
Thank you, Teacher Abby. And if I'm not mistaken, we're excited to also hear another example, also an elementary school example, this time from our grade 3 teacher. So her name is Teacher Hazel, and we're so happy to pass the floor to her. Go ahead, Teacher Hazel.
Thank you, Sir Ilan. Good day, or good evening, or good morning. So, I am Teacher Hazel, and I'm one of the grade 3 advisors. So, it is with deep appreciation to our Filipino farmers that we humbly present with you the grade 3 Love Our Farmers campaign. So through this, we aim to support the UNSDG number 2, which is zero hunger, and number 8, decent work and economic growth. So as we all know, farming is not easy, and we need hard work and perseverance to go through the process. So most probably here in the Philippines, farmers are one of those marginalized people in our society. So through this campaign, we tend to help our local farmers by buying directly from them and instilling our students that farming is a dignified profession. Because first and foremost, we know that farmers are our food heroes and they are truly the backbone of our society. So as we already started working on our future goals, like buying directly to our local farmers, national recognition to farmers, and being a youth farmer. So for 3 years now, we have been able to connect from different farm owners and workers like Local Roots, Kadiwa organization, organization of farmers in our district. And then the year 2021, we did Maki Agri Connect, which is a virtual campaign event about youth farming with Sir Juan Fidel Rodriguez of UN FAO. So which is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Then last year, we visited some community leaders, talk with different organizations related to agriculture, and we experience also led farm immersion programs, organic fertilizer workshops, webinars, and interview sessions. And at present, we are working towards helping farmers sell their products directly to our students through the trade fair or also the consumers po. And ayan po, moreover, we want our students to have empathy po to our dear farmers. So we let them watch film or skits about the life of a farmer because they need to know where those food on their table is coming from. So through that, we can also end food waste in the best way that we can. So it is a humbling experience that we were able to do something for our dear farmers and achieve sustainable agriculture. Thank you so much for listening.
Let's get an example from high school. Thank you so much, Teacher Hazel, Teacher Abby. Next up, Teacher Pauline.
Hello, everyone. Thank you po, Sir Ilan. So, hello, everyone, once again. I am Teacher Pauline, head teacher of grade 9, students with the campaign Youth for Coasts. Our campaign focuses on the different UN SDGs, such as clean water and sanitation, climate action, life on land, and we put emphasis to our main goal, which is the life below water. We started this campaign years ago with a vision of a better, cleaner, and safer coasts, not only for human being, but also for the species in the ocean. Throughout the years, we were able to connect outside our school. We have partnerships with districts near the coastal areas and with underprivileged students from other schools. Our students were able to do seminar workshops, create artworks, plays, and short films related to our campaign, sell products for fundraising to build public restrooms and trash bins, and immerse with the community far from where they live through monthly coastal cleanups. I can still remember a question from one of the students during our cleanup. Teacher, why are there so many trash near the coastal areas? That question made me think of reasons, like maybe they don't have enough resources to throw trash into proper trash bins, or maybe they don't have enough education about the possible effects of throwing trash near the coastal areas, or maybe they are not disciplined enough. But one thing I've learned after I researched this simple question from a student, that not every trash near the coastal areas are from the people in that community. Maybe some, but not all. So this sums up that we are all contributors of this trash, and we are all responsible in cleaning the wastes. Let us all do our part, not only for us, but also for our future children. Granddaughter, your son, let us not disappoint these little ones who believe that they are going to live their lives in a beautiful world. Let us start with educating our students that they can make a change, that even the little things they do matter. Our ocean is vast and what we do is quite little. But we, the grade 9 students, teachers, and ISBB community, believe that small actions create big changes. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Teacher Pauline. And next up, we'll pass the floor to an elementary school teacher, this time from grade 6, Teacher Rose.
Thank you, Sir Ilan. So good day, everyone. I am Teacher Rose, a grade 6 teacher at ISBB. So our students campaign po is entitled Anti-Bullying Ambassadors, focuses on addressing social issues, particularly the changes or the challenges faced by the students who experience bullying and discrimination, intertwined with the issues related to safe learning environments and mental health among children and teenagers. So to combat these issues, we empower our students to organize and speak at their own seminar workshop, So our students then go on to empower other young people from different schools to stand and act against bullying by providing meaningful and inspiring activities that help them realize that they are worthy of respect, love, and appreciation. So the act of writing letters to and meeting administrators from other schools was so valuable as a learning activity for our students, since forming this partnership was essential to the success of their campaign. So through our lessons, we also empower our students to conduct fundraising projects as part of their academic subjects for underprivileged students in our public school system in the Philippines. So with the fundraise, our students purchase school materials, sleepers, and hygiene kits, which are then distributed to various public schools near our city, which is La Cena City. So through these efforts, they expand the reach of the anti-bullying ambassadors by helping and motivating students to persevere in their education despite the challenges that they face, such as lack of school supplies and resources. So during our outreach programs, it's truly heartwarming to witness our students generously sharing the results of their hard work with less fortunate students. So these programs include short seminar and workshops on bullying, engaging in games, opportunities to make new friends, sharing their self-authored stories about bullying, and providing snacks and even school supplies. So these experiences provide our students with a unique opportunity to connect with other students, especially those who are less privileged. So we aspire for these small acts of kindness to create a ripple effect, touching the lives of more students, not just students within Lucena, but we are hoping, but for those in various regions across the Philippines and even around the globe. So thank you, everyone.
Good day, everyone. My name is Teacher Sheena, and one of the teachers from the grade 5. Climate Change Ambassadors is the name of the students' campaign for integrating actions to combat climate change into every person's daily lifestyle. And our current specific call to action is to stop single-use plastics. Our students are also promoting reusable items and the use of biodegradable products in our city and our province. Since we started, our students have conducted many outreaches and seminars for lower income communities and schools, raising awareness about the social problem in our community. One way students have done this is by writing and illustrating their own storybooks about climate change, and then organizing trips to present and donate these books. Last year, in our third year of integrating the SDGs and external partners into our lessons, a local company called Sentinel Upcycling Technologies joined forces with us. Single-use plastics are a huge problem in our country, and this company does amazing work to collect and transform plastic trash into new usable products such as chairs and tables. Through Sir Ilan and Verga, we got to know the company's CEO, who shared with us how can we be part of the circular economy. He taught us, teachers and students, how to manage waste, upcycle, and to turn low-value trash into high-value products. We gained new knowledge not only about the economics and environmental aspects of it all, but also the science behind different kinds of plastics and the chemistry and the machinery involved to transform these materials. Through our students' partnership with Sentinel, we are collaborating on efforts to raise awareness about these issues and solutions on wider provincial community. We are constructing a new facility in our school for collecting and processing plastic trash in our school that students would be responsible. And even for us teachers, we are excited to collaborate with Sentinel to design lesson plans that we will be distributing to teachers in Southeast Asia through another partnership with a regional organization. We still have a lot of target activities for the upcoming months. And thanks to the partnership we have made, our students can see the impact of their studies on their community. So they are genuinely excited to act as the climate change ambassadors who will be the change maker in the future. Thank you, everyone.
Hi everyone, I am teacher Yellen and I am an educator and one of the teachers in grade 10 at ISD. The SDG-driven campaign of our 10th grade level, which is integrated into our academics, is called Second Chance, where our main objective is to eradicate the negative stigma towards prison inmates or the persons deprived of liberty or PDL. This is connected most with UNSDG number 8, decent work and economic growth, UNSDG number 10, reduced inequalities, and UNSDG number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Our main goal is to build empathy for those behind bars and give our PDL a second chance in having an opportunity to be accepted by the community by giving them equal rights and equal access to better jobs when they are already outside, so that they will be able to support their family again, especially their children. This is the common goal of our students and the national organization called Second Chance Philippines, whom we formed a partnership with. Talking about the same goals and objectives, we are also connected to the local prison system, which is in the Philippines is called the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, from the nearby towns in our province, including both male and female dormitories. Through their classes, our high school students organized webinars, seminars, livelihood workshops, and entrepreneurial activities such as by selling hundreds of products made by the inmates at community bazaars and community markets. We envision that these students' efforts will reach more jail offices and support even more PDL. We also aim to create more partnerships with other private organizations which have the same goals as us. As an educator, it was initially a challenge for me to make our students understand the real inequalities and hardships faced by people behind bars. But by integrating their real life scenarios into our lessons, and most importantly, by meeting and hearing directly from the people themselves, they are able to understand the real meaning of second chance. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Sir Ilan.
Thank you, teacher Yellen. And I'd just like to say, like, just this week, like our students with teacher Yellen did visit a prison or a BJMP. Just this week, our students in grade 9 and grade 7 went to a beach to do a coastal cleanup. And just this week, our students were out at a public school in our public school system here in the Philippines to do storytelling activities as well as SDG awareness activities. So our students are not, or maybe you're wondering, do our students ever stay in the classroom? But they're really spending a lot of their learning outside. And I think when we go back to the question of what's the point or what's the purpose of education, if we agree that to prepare students for the future real world outside of schools, then we also have to bring them outside of the classroom to have them prepare and learn from the real world itself. But before we end today's formal discussion, we just wanted to end by answering two quick questions, and that was, why do partnerships with external partners enhance teaching and learning? And we'll also discuss how do we do this? Because if this is something that you're not actively doing as a teacher, we'd love to also share some tips with you before we end. So I'd like to lastly invite one final guest from ISBB, and that is Sir BJ, who is our Director for Academics. And as you know, partnerships and SDG integration is embedded in our academics. So without further ado, we're going to pass the floor to him. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elon. So regarding the topic of why form partnerships with communities, and I think there are many ways to approach this question, but I'd like to highlight maybe three things that specifically have come up based on our experience in ISBB. The first one would be the possibility of enhanced learning opportunities, especially when it comes to the different SDGs. So we've heard examples already from teachers about how their grade levels and their classes engage or allow students to engage with the different SDGs. Another sort of benefit of this is that they gain by connecting to their communities. There are opportunities for more learning opportunities, especially outside the classroom. So you can think of community partnerships providing students with opportunities for hands-on learning experiences that would not otherwise be possible inside of the classroom. And one of the effects of this is that the learning becomes more engaging and relevant, and they value the lessons a lot more. It's not just something that's abstract or theoretical, but it's something that students actually can do something about. So there's an action orientation, but also at the same time, it sort of builds up this value of them being able to impact the world, regardless of whatever level or whatever age they happen to be. So you've heard some examples of some very young students taking certain forms of action. This is, I mean, they then gain this understanding that regardless of their age, action is possible. So that's number one. I think another important reason to engage with the community would be because it allows us to access learning resources. I suppose that would be the term I would use. Learning resources that wouldn't otherwise be available within a school setting. So being able to hear from practitioners, not just teachers, but actual people on the ground in the specific fields that are relevant to each SDG, whether they are businesses or organizations or experts or community members, they provide additional information and sort of provide a different dimension and make real the actions. And since they are in the field and they are experts, they can also validate or at least comment on what the impacts are of what these students do. And I suppose the third thing that we've noticed is that although the primary target of the SDG type of education that we implement is for students, there's sort of a spillover effect to parents and guardians and sort of the extended family or the extended network of the student, because they see what their child is doing. They accompany students along, especially if they go off campus. So there is this chance for family involvement, and they themselves then sort of pick up the values as well, and they get to see how their child begins to appreciate these things. And apart from that, of course, it's a chance for families to work together, to collaborate with one another. And you know, at the end of the day, it's beneficial as a way to spread SDG awareness, and so although the initial target of the education is students, what we find is that there's interactions, exchanges, flows of ideas, and spillovers to the community and even the network surrounding each individual student. And so these are all, I think, very good reasons why communities should be engaging with schools. So I'll stop there, and back to you, Elon.
Thank you so much. And I think we can all agree with all of these reasons. Maybe you can even find your own if you want. You're welcome to share them as well in the chat. If you have your own experiences about partnering with, any entity or organization or business or anything outside of the school, we would love to hear, because maybe we're not alone in this sort of action. But I think we can all agree that education systems for very long have had this sort of disconnect with what's happening in the real world. And again, as we've seen from many reports and many voices from young people, they really want to see relevance in their learning. And this is really an excellent way to do it. I mean, there's nothing more relevant than the real world and real world problems and solving them. But before we end, we'd just like to share these last 3 strategies that I hope you can all take away to your own teaching, to your own classroom, to your own lesson plans. And the first one is, we encourage teachers to contextualize your lessons to real world, real community, localized issues or advocacies. Because when you do this, it's much easier to identify the best partnerships to form. So what we like to do when we started this program, this Youth for Better program, is we had everyone look at their topics. Like, what are your topics this school year in your subject? What are your topics? What are your units? I know there's different words that different countries use, your units, your chapters, your modules. So what are those for you this coming school year? And you'll see that there are interconnections and possible interconnections among even different subject areas. The interdisciplinary teaching and interdisciplinary learning is a whole other topic, but something we also love and you can do here. But when you see the big picture of the sort of skills and knowledge that are going to be discussed, you can find a context in which to set your teaching or your learning in the coming school year. Once you realize, oh, like this topic connects with this topic, and these are very much related to agriculture, then that advocacy might lead you to better partners or identifying better partners for your students. As you heard from the grade 3 example earlier, they focused on an advocacy related to, impoverished farmers in the Philippines. Therefore, they found partnerships with the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization. The next strategy that we'd like to mention is, as a school and as you are part of a school, so as a school, you already have an existing network and you already have existing strong network ties. So please tap into them. So these are, fellow teachers. These could be the parents of your students. These could be the alumni of your school. And the list can sort of start growing from there. But it would be such a waste if you're not tapping into those close contacts already. And these could lead you to even more partnerships in the future. But tap into your strong ties. But from then, if you're unable to find exactly what you're looking for, please, something that we have tried and tested are just cold emails. We've really just sent just people we've never met, organizations that we thought were very, very impressive, very powerful organizations. We just, sent a letter, sent an email, and very often when they hear that what you're doing with your students is to, help the community, doing good definitely invites support from the community as well. So we encourage you to also try to tap into your weak ties of your school. So don't be scared that what's the worst that can happen? You don't receive a reply, but at least you tried. But again, what we've learned from this whole experience of teaching with the SDGs is that the family of sustainability is very close. Like, everyone really wants to support each other when they know that you're working with the SDGs. The last strategy we'd like to share is really, really leaning into capacity building for teachers and ensuring teachers are equipped. If this action or this skill of building partnerships or bridging the classroom to the community is not a familiar skill, then if you're a school leader, or if you're just a teacher, if you want more of your colleagues to build on this capacity, the best thing you can do is make it as easy as possible for them. And one is training, and the other is, resources. A resource could be as simple as an email template, like something that you would send to someone to form a partnership. Like just having that template, which is, you can easily Google that. You can easily find examples of that online, but just making it easier for fellow teachers does sort of help have a more system school-wide impact when it comes to building these bridges. So before we end, we just wanted to say thank you for giving us your time today. And we just wanted to emphasize that as a school, as ISBB, with our program Youth for Better, we're really adamant of trying to share as much as we can what we're doing. We don't want to keep our work secret. And if you feel like we can help you more, please feel free to reach out. We have been providing support for other schools for free, just because we truly believe in the SDGs and we truly believe in the power of education and that teachers should help fellow teachers. So we're really here to help. So if you have any questions, I know we have a Q&A portion, but if you have any questions after this portion, after this discussion and this webinar, please feel free to reach out, and I'm resending my contact information on the chat box, but feel free to also send us yours through this QR code. But with that, we just wanted to say thank you and good luck to all of you on your journeys to connect your classroom to the real world. So thank you so much, Global Schools, and back to you, Amanda.
Thank you so much for the absolutely wonderful presentation, and especially to all the other colleagues and teachers and administrators from your school that presented. It was very enlightening to see a little bit more in detail about their work. And we will have some time now for questions. So if anyone does have more specific questions, please feel to put those questions into the chat, and I will ask them to Elon so we can get started with the Q&A portion. I will give it maybe 30 seconds to see if there's any questions that come through. And if not, I have a question for you. So it looks like we have a question from Sarita. So if you want to ask your question, please keep the interventions very short so we have time for other people. But please feel to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Very good evening, and thank you for a wonderful sharing of SDGs. And my question is, if in India we have a collaboration where your students can have their projects shared with our students, is it possible?
That's a very easy question. The answer is yes, because definitely partnerships should be formed not just with government agencies or businesses or public and private schools. We should also build bridges with each other. And I think that's something that the Global Schools program does excellently, is connect one another with schools that are also promoting the SDGs. So I think that's a no-brainer, especially when it comes to the work of the Global Schools program. But thank you, Sarita. Please feel free to contact me after this. We'll set it up.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a few other questions that came into the chat. So I'll ask you two at a time. So the first question is, can you provide any insight about incorporating ESD into history activities? And the second one is what was your first step? Was it organizing the teachers? Was it talking to the school director? And how did you as an individual start this?
Yeah, okay. I will start with that last question because it's the most fresh. And I will also invite our fellow school administrator from ISBB, Sir BJ, because he does a lot when it comes to history. So I will leave that to him to answer. I'm not a history teacher, so I think he can provide more on that. How did we start? I can definitely answer that because I was sort of the conceptualizer when it came to this program. This all started right at the beginning of the pandemic. Believe it or not, it started right at the beginning of the pandemic, when every single teacher in the world was sort of panicking on how they were going to deliver their lessons and how does Zoom work? What is Zoom? So it was really happening when it was really like the most stressful time, I think, for everyone. But we pushed through. We saw the opportunity that every single teacher in the world had to change the way they were teaching because of the pandemic. And we took this very bold opportunity to say, if we're going to change our pedagogy, why not change it to the way that we would prefer? Like, what's the best type of education that we wanted to give our students? And we took that opportunity. We really took a leap of faith. And we believe it's paid off after a few years. We've really seen it, and you've heard the examples, you've seen the pictures, and the results and the impact. But I will emphasize, and I heard it in the question, I will emphasize the key to any educational transformation is supporting and equipping teachers. Teachers are number one, are central to any education transformation. So 100%, that's such an easy question to answer. The teachers were the first part of the school that we invested time and effort and money into when it came to changing or transforming the way that we were teaching and learning in our school. My fellow teachers are in this Zoom, and they know that there was a lot of training. There was a lot of capacity building. It was very intense. I heard there were tears, but it was different, right? So the way for many of you who are already teaching with the SDGs, it's different, right? It really is different, but it's definitely much better. It's worth it because the achievement of the learning outcomes, first of all, the impact on student performance, whether it be their engagement and how excited they are to see that their efforts in the classroom are now directly impacting their community, and obviously vice versa, the impact that we see coming from the community itself. Like, there was just so much, and a lot of our teachers, time and time again, say this. Many of our teachers say they've sort of reignited their passion for teaching, because prior to this program, this Youth for Better program, teachers felt like they were kind of robotic when it came to teaching. They would show up at school, they would teach the lesson the way that they've been teaching it for 15, 20 years, and do the same thing again tomorrow. But what makes this way of teaching so much more exciting and more innovative is because you're dealing with what's happening in the real world and what's happening at the time. And we've, again, time and time again, we've seen how impactful this has been for the students. So thank you for that great question. To answer the question about how we've integrated ESD into history classes, I will invite our academic our academic director and also teacher, Sir BJ. Go ahead.
Cool. Hi, thanks. So there are actually two things that I can say in response to this very quickly. So it's not very obvious, I understand, right away how history and the SDGs can be connected. So I do know where this question is coming from, and it did take a bit of thinking to sort of find a way to connect them. But there are two paths, or rather, there's several ways to connect. And I think essential to this is to think, if possible, if your curriculum allows you to think of history not just in terms of sort of national history, but to think of it in terms of a global history. And this is sort of a relatively different bend in understanding history. So it's about understanding flows and exchanges and things like that. And in that case, the focus would then be to look at how events that may have occurred in one part of the world shaped or impacted localities, such as wherever you come from. Where I mean, in the Philippines, we've been impacted, for example, by historical forces such as the Industrial Revolution. We can talk about global trade. So the capital, Manila, is actually, it was once a hub for the movement of a lot of industrial goods. And a third one would be colonialism. Each of these are sort of precursors to some of the issues that we can connect to the SDGs today. So this is at a conceptual level, I think, moving towards sort of slanting your history, not towards a global perspective, will help. So from the conceptual, that's one way to do it. In terms of the activities, I saw that the question also asked for activities. There are different ways to do this, so it depends again on what the specifics are of your class, but one is to look at simulations, for example. One is to do simulations. Doing a UN simulation, for example, this sort of a negotiation on how to solve world problems. I mean, some schools do Model UN, you do a simplified version of that. That's one way to go. Another way would be to analyze, for example, movements of materials across borders or globally, or even historical consumption of things like agricultural products. These are historical. They're elements of history, and they can be used for activities that can be connected to the SDGs or sustainable development issues. So those are some suggestions. If you'd like me to offer more, I suppose I can come up with more, but I don't want to monopolize all the time.
And I just want to quickly add a really specific example. I recently bought this children's storybook about ancient civilizations that were already practicing sustainability thousands of years ago. And it's really cool. And I'm happy to sort of keep in contact later and share the title of that book later on.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much for sharing your contact with the participants here, and I'm sure they would really find it useful to connect with you afterwards. So we have another participant has raised their hand, and then we'll do one more round of questions in the chat before we close. So we'll go to Neha.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I'm from India, and I was just listening to the discussion regarding the connection of history with the SDGs. So I just want to say one line, and then I'll ask my question on that. Like history, we can very well connect, like we talk about SDG 14, that zero level water consumptions and all these things. So in primitive areas, in primitive times, people used to work with a limited resources only. We don't have that trade. So we can very well link these concepts with the concept of histories and all. Now back to the question, my question is that is there any common platform where we can share these activities, or we come to know about certain activities that you are doing or some other school is doing across the globe, so that we can use those methods in our teaching learning platform? Because right now we all need to brainstorm, and everyone is thinking about their own resources and their own levels. So if we are having any common platform to share all these things, definitely it will reduce the work of others, and we can use the resources as well. So I just want to know if we can share these ideas freely and we can access to all those ideas as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I will quickly just mention that I agree that I love learning from other teachers, and I know all of you bring more experiences to the table that I could never have thought of. So I absolutely understand that benefit. I might refer that question also to Amanda, just because I feel like the Global Schools program does this already in terms of, you know, presenting these global schools advocates and the work that they're doing. So I'm not sure if Amanda, you wanted to take that question.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quickly. We have a LinkedIn group, and we have a couple other ways that we have the Advocates Network. So usually after these sessions, we send a follow-up with the recording or the slides if the presenter wants to share those as well. So potentially this time we can also connect people to some of our groups so that it's easier to access, and you can all join and continue the conversation. But I'll check in with our team on that and how exactly we can facilitate that. We also have a newsletter that's on the bottom of our homepage where we send out all of the activities, and we also feature schools on our blog. And so we share some of their stories every month.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we'll do one more round of questions in the chat if you have time. Elon, does that work with you? Okay, great. I'm just looking here. So I think we answered the network question already. So the last one, this one was sent directly to me, so it's a little bit of a difficult question. But for schools that might be in a situation where the security limits students being able to, participate in community partnerships or campaigns outside the classroom based on safety reasons, what is your advice for how to go about engaging in community partnerships and remaining effective with these strategies?
That's such a great question. And obviously this was safety is a huge priority for teachers. The safety of students is always a huge priority. And obviously this was part of the conversation when we were doing a lot of this work. And I have a few things. So one is where there are, okay, I don't know which order to say them, so it might not be logical. I apologize in advance. But one example are at least getting to the point of simulations, because that's something we actually do at our school. If you're familiar with GRR, gradual release of responsibility, there's this idea where, teachers act as sort of like role models, or like they give example, they are the example themselves. And then they sort of pass on some responsibility to the students in the classroom in this sort of safe setting. So if you believe that there's this sort of, really extreme challenge when it comes to bringing your students outside, then simulations are an excellent way to do this, because our teachers, before we bring the students out, we first do simulations within the classroom. For example, instead of having a project where they're trying to design a solution, or there's many examples, there's many subjects that we can connect to, but let's say they have a project in a certain subject related about a social problem, and they have to design a solution. They can do this in a sort of simulated setting. They will pretend, for example, that they are they are pretending that they are a policymaker, right? So they work in the government and they have to draft a policy, like they have to write a policy, let's say for English or language class. So in the same way, they are building the agency towards a certain problem. They are building the skills, and they may be applying the knowledge that they learned in class towards practicing how to be a positive change in their community. So that's really one of the easiest ways to do it, is to do it in a simulated matter or format, because that's how we do it before we actually bring the students outward or out of the school. And I see that my fellow administrator also has their hand raised. So yes, I'll pass the floor.
Sorry. Okay. So just I think one other way to think about this might be in terms of some of the things we did in the pandemic. So actually the transition to this happened during the pandemic, which means that I imagine, I don't know exactly what are the circumstances from which the question is coming, but I imagine that I suppose a lockdown situation is similar. It should hopefully cover the security necessities that the question might have. So the holding of webinars or doing activities online, this is another way to do it. And in our experience, the reach is very big, and a lot of you actually get audiences that are a little bit different from if you were to do it on site. So you have a wider reach, you have more diversity. So there is value in doing that as well. That's all I wanted to add. Sorry.
That's perfectly fine. No need to apologize. And that's actually the other example I wanted to say. So online examples, and also there are things that students can work on in the classroom that adults can sort of help deliver to external partners. But students still completed the act of sort of doing something for someone else. So examples could be if your students prepared letters of encouragement, or even letters sort of with demands or with a petition that would be sent to local government offices. Like, they don't necessarily have to go outside of the school if those can be assisted with adult supervision. So there's many ways, creative ways to go about this. And we learned a lot of this and got creative during the pandemic. So many more examples to share if you would like to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the individual that asked the question, please feel free to also email the speakers that were here today, and I'm sure they can give you more advice, understanding a little bit more about the context if you would like to share with them. So we'll take a picture to conclude this session, having all of us together. So let me just remove these spotlights. And if you are able to turn on your camera, it would be wonderful to see all of you before we close. All right, I will give it just one more moment here. I see people are still turning on their cameras. All right, there are 4 screens of participants, so if everyone can just pause right there. So I'll take the first screen, 1, 2, 3. And then the second screen, the third. And then we also have the 4th screen as well. Okay, thank you so much for posing for the picture here. And I want to close by just giving a huge congratulations to everyone that presented here for all of the amazing work that you're doing with your school. We are so glad to have you speak and share what you're doing. And thank you also for your time and presenting with us and your willingness to follow up with all of the participants in the Global Schools community. As I mentioned, if you sign up for our newsletter, which is on the bottom of the globalschoolsprogram.org page, we always send out the recordings of the session, as well as the presentations if the speaker wants to share those as well. So please keep up to date with that. I want to see if there's any final words from Elon before we close.
Thank you are my final words. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Global Schools, for this opportunity. Happy to connect after this.
Thank you again, and we will see everyone on the next session. Please check out our social media for announcements of our November webinars. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you on the next session.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.